Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Welcome back, everybody. Time again for another Word Balloon Live, the Comic Book Conversation Show. John Suntress here. The last time I saw this guy, we were in a limo coming back from Terrificon.
Yeah.
Heading to the airport 2 years ago.
That's right.
So it's wonderful to welcome Marc Guggenheim back to Word Balloon. Good to see you, man.
It's good to see you too, man. It's great to be back. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. And very excited to talk to you about your brand new Dark Horse series that's coming out soon.
Yeah.
Last Flight Out. A very cool post-apocalyptic. Well, actually, we're in the midst of the apocalypse, and time is running out. I will, as it says, Last Flight Out. Give us the 10-cent description of Last Flight Out.
Well, when you said we're in the midst of the apocalypse, you were talking about the series, right? Not like right now.
Yeah, it's a different. Yeah.
So the 10-second elevator pitch is Earth has become uninhabitable. We have found a way to send ships off of the planet. The very last ship is about to leave. And with 24 hours until launch, the inventor of these arcs, his estranged daughter goes missing in basically a world that is coming apart. So he's got to find her, reconcile with her, and get both of them back to the Ark before it takes off forever. So no spoilers as to whether or not he succeeds in doing any of those things, but it's a lot of fun. It's an idea that I've had for over 10 years now. And it really, took the pandemic to give me the opportunity to finally, get a chance to write it.
I was going to ask, man, okay, so basically is this what you've been working on in terms of like the last 16 or 17 months?
I've been working on a whole bunch of things. For me, the start of the quarantine was terrific. The forced shutdown of television production, it basically was the working vacation I desperately needed after 2019. So I basically just hunkered down and just started writing all these things. There were a couple of movies I had been hired to write very coincidentally right before the pandemic hit. So that was, that was the first stuff I was working on. And as I was revising those scripts, I started doing, more comic books. One of my New Year's resolutions in 2020 was to do more creator-owned books. I had no idea what 2020 was going to turn out to be, but it turned out, to be a fortuitous timing because it gave me the time to write these books. I wrote a spec feature, a spec pilot. I started work on the Green Lantern show for HBO Max. Developing LA Law. So I've been busy. It's been very, very busy, but it really, a very fruitful time for me. I turns out, being trapped in my house agrees with me.
I understand. Were you a guy that, I mean, obviously, I know for TV writing and certainly, being part of the CW Arrowverse television shows, you had an office. I know you were scaling back
Yep.
to creative consultant and everything.
Yep.
But, okay, well, it sounds like, yeah, you've been productive and there was no writer's block or any sort of fear or anything like that keeping you from, staying creative.
No, it's funny. Like, I know a lot of people who really struggled with how can I be creative when the world is ending, essentially. And I totally understood that.
Sure.
For me, writing is kind of the way I process whatever's going on in my life anyway. So it just, I don't know. I was very lucky. I didn't have any kind of writer's block. I'm feeling more, quite frankly, I'm feeling more writer's block now than I did at the start of the pandemic, which maybe makes a certain amount of sense.
Wow. I've got art, and I'm going to try and keep this
cool.
spoiler free to share from Last Flight Out. Let's see here. Here we go. So there's a nice little character moment. I'm going to zoom back up on top, and we'll take a look at the beautiful cover. And tell me about your collaborator. As I'm doing that.
His name is Eduardo Ferragato. He's fantastic. I gotta say. He's probably known for an image series he did called Self-Made, but he's also been filling in on Radiant Black recently. Oh. And he's terrific. He's a consummate storyteller. And everything he does just elevates what I had asked for, in the script. And he'll change certain things in order to make moments play better. But he's been a wonderful, terrific partner in this. And Marcelo Costa, who draws Radiant Black, he colored the first issue. Cool. So you're seeing his colors here. And one of the fun things about the book is we're interspersing, kind of like what Jonathan Hickman is doing with X-Men. We're interspersing text pieces that aren't, they aren't required reading, but they're a heck of a lot of fun to write. And they do help, just sort of fill in some gaps in the world building that we're doing. Absolutely, man. No, it gives great context to the story. And if anything, does add a level of realism to the story. And dude, I'm an old movie sucker, and the designs for these colony ships are amazing. Yeah. I can't help think of, was it George Pal's When Worlds Collide? Yeah, I gotta, you just reminded me. I really do have to give a shout out to Diego Sanchez, who is our designer, who is, he's designing all of these text pieces, and the logos and a lot of the computer readouts you see in the in the book. So he's obviously a very important part of the team. He's doing so much more than just lettering, even though his lettering is phenomenal as well. That's cool. When does the series start? The series comes out, actually, it's funny. I just found out today that because of a COVID-related shipping delay, we're bumped a week. So this is exclusive word balloon news, but we are now premiering on September 8th, Wednesday, September 8th. Okay, great. So is there time still to order from your store? Yes. Or? Yeah, actually, there's totally time. In fact, our final order cutoff also bumped a week as a result. So before it was going to be Monday, and now it's a week from Monday. So there's plenty of time. August 16 is the new FOC. And, I really hope that people check it out. In obviously, anytime you work on a book, you want it to sell well and get readers. But I think, we've really assembled such a great team here with this book. And I would love to see, Eduardo's beautiful artwork and everyone's wonderful work, seen. And it's, I think it's funny. When I started writing it, it wasn't nearly as timely, it feels, as it does now. It's not a polemic about climate change. It's just sort of dealing with the natural consequence of what we're all sort of experiencing. Ironically, the idea for the book came from the movie WALL-E. Oh, sure. Yeah. Because I loved WALL-E, but when you get to the ship, which I think is called the Axiom, when you get to the Axiom, I was like, when did that take off, and how did that work, and what happens if you missed it? Like, and the question, what happens if you missed it? That just was the first domino in a series of dominoes that just kept clicking down, and that's that was the start of it. So I thank Pixar for the inspiration.
Well, again, I think it's a great combination of realism and a great sci-fi trope that I haven't seen in a while, like I said. And of course, you're much more modern with your Wall-E example rather than my 70-year-old Worlds Collide, George Pal thing. But
I love, I'm such a child of the 70s and 80s. So, I have great affection for everything that came out of those two eras.
On a podcast aside, while I was driving around today, I've been listening to a Quentin Tarantino episode, and I don't remember the name of the podcast, but
The Moment.
Is that it's with
Brian Koppelman? No, maybe not.
No, it isn't. No, it's not Brian Koppelman's podcast, which I love as well. That's a great show. But this is two of his New Beverly guys and him talking about public domain movies that are available on YouTube.
Oh, that's cool. I got to check that out. That's awesome.
And it's 4 hours long, and I'm only like an hour into it. It's Gabe Hardman recommended it to me.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So again, that's kind of where my mind is right now, with especially Tarantino's suggestions of the public domain movies are mostly from the 40s and 50s.
Of course.
And so I guess that's where my brain is with George Pal and everything. So
makes sense. Makes total sense.
A couple questions, and I hope we can bounce TV questions and
absolutely, yeah, hit me with everything.
Beautiful, man. Well, Marc Leferrier from Canada says, quite love the Arrow comics.
Thank you, Mark. I love the way you spell your name.
Absolutely. And great guy, great word balloon regular. Does the seed for these stories come from the writer's room and ideas that had to be cut from TV, or are they reverse engineered, where the comic writer has to fill in the blanks and make something that fits on their own, or a combination of both approaches?
Great question. Well, first of all, thank you for saying you love the Arrow comics, because they were very much a labor of love, and I really mean that in the truest sense. Like no one was getting rich off of them, and it was a lot of work and heavy lifting. I would say the first series that we did, which were the short 8-page stories, a lot of those ideas, a lot of those issues were written by members of the writing staff or members of the writing support staff. I wouldn't necessarily say that they were ideas that came out of the writer's room, but it was more along the lines of fun, fun moments to see. Arrow season 2.5, which I wrote basically contemporaneous with Arrow season 3, that was just trying to fill in the gap between seasons 2 and 3. And the main driver there of the stories, of the ideas, was let's do the things that we can't do in television. Whether it be a sequence, flying out of an airplane, or, characters that we couldn't do in live action, or, characters coming back, played by actors who weren't available to be in season 3, things of that nature. It was a little tricky because I was writing that book while I was show running Arrow. And it very nearly killed me, to be honest with you. It was a lot of Arrow to write in a very compressed period of time.
Well, I'm glad you did it. Have there been writers, because I know several comic book writers have joined the Arrowverse, yes, and are part of the various shows. I mean, my buddy Jay Ferber is doing great stuff on Supergirl and Sterling Gates.
Yep.
Of course, James Robinson joining Jeff on Superman and Lois. But yeah, have there been other TV writers, as you say, beyond the Arrow comics, that are also playing in the comic book world now?
Ooh, I'm gonna, I'm sure I'm gonna end up leaving people out and offending them. But Joe Henderson, who does Lucifer, he's been killing it on the image side of things.
Absolutely.
Oh gosh, this is where I'm blanking.
Don't worry, man. There's no pressure. It's
I
right.
knew I would immediately blank out and start leaving people out. But yes, there were, and actually, Brian Ford Sullivan and Keto Shimizu were helping me with the writing and some of the backup stories on in Arrow season 2.5.
Yeah.
Keto is now the co-showrunner of Legends of Tomorrow. And I should probably bail out before I mess up this question any further. But thank you, Mark, for the question. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, and it's been fun watching Joe thrive.
Yes,
as a comic book writer, and even getting Eisner, noms and everything. And
he's a great guy. So he's not only talented, but he's a really great guy. So.
Well, and truly, like yourself, I really appreciate guys, showrunners in that are willing to open up the hood and really let us kind of look at the car from the inside and see how things work. Because, dude, and again, especially growing up when we did, what an embarrassment of riches in terms of the amount of television and film we're getting.
Crazy.
Insane.
It's crazy. And the thing that I love most about it is, we grew up at a time, when, Batman 66, as much as I absolutely dearly love that show, it kind of it put comics in a certain category. And that, how long did it take for us to get past a mainstream media article about comic books that didn't begin with Biff, Baff, Pow? So the thing that I love about, it's not just the quantity of superhero and comic book TV and movies, it's the quality, and they're not, they're not silly unless they intend to be, Legend of Tomorrow. They're enhancing the reputation of comic books, and not sort of knocking us back a few pegs. So I think it's a great time. We're very lucky.
Well, and all of you guys really through the development of these shows are exploring different genre television within the context of superheroes. Yeah. And Legends of Tomorrow is a very different comedy than Batman 66 was.
Very. I mean, I always say Legends is it's at its best when it's flirting with jumping with the shark.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's like, where's that line? Where's that line? And it just they do it so brilliantly. It's
now Arrow wrapped up, and we know Supergirl is wrapping up. I don't even know. Is Flash wrapping up as well, or
no? Flash is coming back for an 8th season. In fact, they're probably just started production. Legends starts shooting episode 703 today, which is the 100th episode, which is insane, by the way. 100 of that show, not like that show, it's not good enough, but that's the little show that could. That's the show that. Everyone very much like the Legends themselves. Everyone kind of underestimated that show, and it's cool. 100 episodes, that's awesome, and still going strong.
That's amazing, absolutely, and also with the character changes that the show has experienced to still be a vital show and a funny show. And I
think it's really it's got such a wonderful cast, despite the changes. It's just I think Keto Shimizu and Phil Klemmer have done such a great job of casting not only great actors but great people. And it's just such it's a wonderful set to be on. It's just a warm and welcoming environment. And it's really terrific.
That's great to hear, man. All right. Brad Gibson has 2 different questions and another one of your TV projects. I'm 15 episodes into Troll Hunters on Netflix. I find it fun to watch. Best animated show since Avatar: Last Airbender. I've seen your name on some of the episodes. Yeah. So how are you, part of the main production, writing for that as well?
Yeah, I'm actually an executive producer on all 3 Tales of Arcadia series. So there's Troll Hunters and 3 Below and Wizards. And then a couple of weeks ago, we just released the finale movie that's sort of like our Avengers Endgame brings all the characters together and ends the trilogy. I've been, I always write on like the first 2 episodes of each of those series, and then whenever I could write an episode or co-write an episode, I would always try. Troll Hunters I started working on Troll Hunters when Arrow started. Wow. Troll Hunters and Tales of Arcadia sort of have the same. They've occupied the same length of time in my life.
That's cool. Are you any other animation? You don't have to name projects, but
I am working on a new animated project right now. I can't talk about it, but problem. I am really, really enjoying it. It is an absolute blast. Every time I open up a file or look at a piece of art, I just get such a jolt from it. I've really been having a lot of fun with it. So it's animation, so you've got to I've got to be patient with when it comes out, but it's at some point it'll be public, and I really can't wait for people to see it, because I think we're working on something special.
And again, much like live action genre fiction and stuff, this explosion of animation and quality animation has really been exceptional. Troll Hunters is part of that. What are the differences as someone who has been playing in with the networks and also in the streaming world and stuff? Are there big differences from a production standpoint?
Yeah, I would say that there. It's so funny. When you go from live action to animation, it's kind of a rude awakening, because you go, oh, wait a second, I thought I thought the sky was the limit in terms of what I could show. And it's like, no, there's still budgetary restrictions. There are different ones. Like, just to give you a very reductive example, if it is in live action, it is far more expensive to build a set or go to a location than it is to populate that set or location. In animation, it's the exact opposite. Building the virtual set is the relatively easy part. The populating it with characters who all have to be animated separately, they call that complexity. That's the hard part. So the easy and hard get swapped. I think like there was an episode of Troll Hunters where the characters, I don't even know what we were thinking. The characters in the high school, they had a prom, and we wrote the script, and we were told you can't have a prom. Like that's packing an entire gymnasium with different characters who all have to be animated completely independently. Wow. We ended up doing it. It was tricky. It was really tricky. So, both live action and animation, they have their challenges, and it's really my experience with Arrow that taught me how to stretch a dollar. And I kind of pride myself on sort of knowing all the tricks to make it look like we have a lot more money, than we do.
Okay, and one other question regarding at least the studios that are backing this stuff. The old financial model was you put it out as first run, you make enough episodes for syndication. This is all pre-streaming and stuff like that. You shop it around the world. It's running on the local affiliate stations between the reality judge shows and local news and all that stuff. And I mean, that stuff is still happening, but now it's not, it's not happening in the same way. And again, streaming is its own different thing. So how do they pay for this? How do the studios pay for this stuff?
It's a great question, and this is honestly like, this is the next big, flashpoint, no pun intended, of the entertainment business. And we're seeing a little bit of it with, with Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit against Disney. In 2023, the three, guilds, the, Screen Actors Guild, the Writers Guild of America, and the Directors Guild of America will renegotiate what's called their MBA, their minimum basic agreement, that covers residuals, and streaming residuals is going to be a major issue here. How does it all work? Right now, it's a patchwork of of overlapping and sometimes contradictory payment schemes. We're in the wild west. There's a lot of it's part of the uncertainty that is sort of really really flowing through the entire business right now.
Yeah, the Scarlett Johansson situation reminds me of the Writers Guild situation in the early, or kind of pre-2010, that 2007.
The 2007 strike.
Right, the strike, exactly. And I was having lunch with a buddy, and he brought up the Scarlett Johansson thing, and he's like, "What were they thinking?" And I'm like, COVID, man. I mean, it's really changed everything. And she signed a deal that no one thought that the movie business was going to be put on hold. Christ, we're in 17 months now, as much as they're trying to come back. But I mean, again, it's like, do you want this stuff out? Do you want it to be seen? And I'm like, she'll be fine. And I don't mean that in a dismissive way. I'm like, they'll find a way to pay her. Absolutely, they will, because they recognize the problem. It just hasn't. They made a deal that was created before this new normal. So now what do you do? And then what you do is you renegotiate.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually the surprise here is not that they didn't renegotiate. The surprise here is that it got this far. The surprise here is, I mean, I can guarantee you that lawsuit got filed only after months of negotiations. So the surprise is you really couldn't come to terms. I used to be a lawyer, and I sort of look at this lawsuit the same way I pretty much look at almost any lawsuit, which is there's good arguments on both sides. I could, if you asked me to, I could make an excellent case for Scarlett, or if you asked me to, I could make an excellent case for Disney. But the global issue, the 30,000 foot issue, is we are living in a changed world, not just in terms of COVID, but also in terms of streaming technology. And I mean, the Disney thing is very interesting, because it's like the CEO of all these companies, what is their obligation to make more money selling a movie, or is their obligation to drive more audience members to their streaming platform? It's a very interesting question. And it's this is all the stuff that we're in new times, and new times require new rules. It's why the whole, you can usually track the Writers Guild strikes by a big change in technology. In 2007 it was all about the internet, and to a certain extent trying to get an improvement on DVD residuals, but it's the Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. We're living in very interesting times.
Absolutely, man. And again, I'll come back to this and ask you a couple other questions regarding this new normal, because it's not only changing things economically, but from a storytelling standpoint as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. So we'll get into that. But Brad also had a comics question, and this is a good one. Have you considered writing straight to graphic novel rather than a trade collection of singles, the way Ed Brubaker is now doing with his Reckless series?
Yeah, actually, great question, Brad. I have, in fact, I haven't announced it yet, and I'm probably not yet at liberty to announce it yet. But one of the creator-owned books that I've done in quarantine is an original graphic novel, and it was a lot of fun. I did enjoy working in that expanded format and not having to write to a monthly break at around page 22. But it's to me it's just another way of doing comics. And it was fun. I think I would like to do more of them. Now that I've gotten a little bit of a taste.
Would you also mentioning Ed, Ed also with Marcos Martin was playing around with Panel Syndicate and Fridays, I think was a great series. Beyond, working with a traditional publisher, would you, I mean, again, thankfully, the publishers do want to do business with you.
But I've thought about that. I've been, I'm kind of I am a sucker for trying things that are new, or trying things that are sort of outside the box. And, And for better or for worse, I've written several series in quarantine, and they're all in various different stages of completion. But some of them, I think, really might lend themselves to like a panel syndicate or a comicsology or something, outside the norm. I think there's some really exciting opportunities out there. There's even another publisher, out there that hasn't even really been announced yet, that I've been talking to. There's a lot of different, avenues to pursue. And I'm kind of glad I've got all these different books, because maybe I can try different publishers and different ways of distribution.
Yeah, that Comixology original deal that Scott Snyder just signed, very interesting. Huge. And I look forward to talking to Scott about that. And also my buddy Rob Salkowitz, who's one of the best, I think, industry analysts in terms of looking at this stuff. Again, we are absolutely living in interesting times. Yep. And I think there's very good options for storyteller and reader, the consumer in general. So it's pretty cool. Here's another one. Let's see. Steve Commander says, "Good evening, John and Mark. Mark, can you spill anything about the Prophet movie you've been scripting?" In fact, I noticed in retweeting that we were talking, I saw Liefeld retweeted us and stuff. So I imagine it's Liefeld's Prophet that he's talking about.
Yes. Well, the script is written, and we're basically in the process of looking to attach a director and an actor to play Prophet. I was dealing with that stuff earlier today. So it's very much in progress. But I definitely, under the category of things I'm completely forbidden to talk about. But I'm really excited, and working with Rob has been great. He's been such a phenomenal champion of the project and of the script, and fingers crossed. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about it.
That's great to hear, and also just even mentioning that Rob is actively involved that's a terrific sign.
Yeah, so, he's I've been sending him every single draft, and there's a variety of different Easter eggs I've written into the different drafts. Not just to Rob, but Rob Zufra, as well as Image Comics in general. That era of Image Comics. It's been a blast to work on.
That's awesome. And yes, I forgot you had a page on Jeff John's Comic Block. Boy, those were the days. That's
I mean, gosh, that is such a deep cut, like a real deep cut. I miss those days.
Mark, that's how I met a lot of you guys. Was stuff like that, and Bendis's message boards as well. Yeah. And Joe, Joe was. Yeah. Joe was another, not lurker, but a guy chiming in on Bendis's message boards and stuff, and that's how we first met. So it is Jesus, man. And again, it's been 16 years for Word Balloon, so we've come a long way.
Yeah, indeed. Well, you got the super high tech setup now.
Like I told you up there before we started, man. I'm like, well, I did. I looked. I'm like, all right, we're all stuck inside. We're all kind of screwed. And again, I use these old man references, but I'm like, maybe I'll be like Bob Hope on the home front during World War II, where it's like, all right, don't worry, everybody. I know we're in weird times, but I'm going to entertain you. Here's Lonnie Anderson, everybody.
Yeah, I love it. We should get Lonnie Anderson on the show.
That would be great. I'd love that to happen. Good Lord. I had his name is Stacey Souther. He just made that Valerie Perrine documentary that's on Vimeo.
Oh, cool.
Oh, and she started following me, which was like, I'm like, oh my God, Miss Tessmacher is following me.
Oh, that's so cool. I gotta check that out.
It's really good. They're only showing it on Vimeo, and they're hitting the festival series now. But it's such a nice tribute to Valerie, and
that's so awesome.
And your old movies. I mean, God, Lenny, the Bob Fosse Lenny Bruce movie she made with Dustin Hoffman.
Oh God,
she was up for Best Actress.
Yes,
and she was up against like Ellen Burstyn and Diane Carroll for Claudine and Faye Dunaway, and I always forget the fourth.
Your memory, brother, your Oscar trivia skills are top notch.
Well, it's one of the main points of the documentary, and it's like, that was a really tough year. And it's like,
Yeah.
I believe Jenna Rollins was the other one. And it's like, good Lord, Ellen Burstyn won for Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. And it's like literally any one of those nominees, if they had won, it would have been, of
course.
Deserved
it. Yeah. Totally would have deserved it. Absolutely.
And she got an award at Cannes for Lenny and everything. So yeah, it's like, I mean, because really, beautiful woman. I mean, we all remember, and we all had massive crushes on her back in the day.
But Lex, my mother lives in Hackensack. The best.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing. But then it's like, no, you go back to like W.C. Fields and Me and Lenny and stuff, and it's like, and Steam Bath and Slaughterhouse-Five. And it's like, she was a really good actress too.
Yeah, man. So good. And incredible comedic timing.
100%, absolutely. Kyle Fegley is chiming in.
Okay.
And it's funny because when you mentioned that you're a lawyer, I immediately thought of Eli Stone as well. And he said, I hadn't remembered until John brought up 2007 that you had to launch Eli Stone, during that whole thing at ABC. Yes. And who would have thought we would have gotten into a weirder situation with movies and television? Agreed.
It's crazy. This is making 2007 look like nothing. But then just wait, because 2023 could make it look even worse. I will definitely say, definitely if you can avoid it, do not launch a new show during a writer's strike. But also technology has changed so much. Who knows? Maybe things would be different. But
is Eli Stone streaming anywhere?
No, it's not. It was available on iTunes. I don't know if it still is. I mean, my living room.
I'm hip. No, I understand.
If you want to come by my house, you can watch it. I've been trying. My daughters love Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, and I've been trying to get them to watch Eli.
Sure.
But just there's a lot of things are a function of timing. As much as anything else.
No, I understand. And I was I talked to the character actor Robert Costanzo. He was at this year's Terrificon, and we did a word balloon before the convention. Oh, cool. And he's like, and he mentioned, he goes, I was on a really good show that got screwed mid-season, and it was a Mark Harmon show before NCIS, and it was a cop show called Charlie Grace, and there are a couple episodes that are from the mid-90s, and it's a couple of those episodes. Thank God for YouTube. I mean, I'm not for piracy, but I'm really glad because it really does, give people a chance to see some of these shows. Absolutely. And I watched a couple of the episodes. It was good.
Yeah, Charlie Grace. I remember that show. Remember the show he did with Marley Matlin, Reasonable Doubts. Yep. Love that show. Absolutely love that show. Yeah, it's a shame that I feel like the music rights really prevent a lot of these shows from ending up on streamers, which is too bad, really, because we have that outlet right now. It'd be great to be able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, man. No, I absolutely hear you. John Hughes is joining us. Not that John Hughes.
Well, that'd be really impressive.
Yes, indeed. From the grave. It's John Hughes, everybody. Love all your DC TV work. You mentioned recently you want the new Green Lantern show to atone for some past film adaptation sins. Would you mind talking about what some of those sins were?
Ooh, how much time do we have, John? No, I'm kidding. Look, I'll be totally honest, John. Other John Hughes, but not that John Hughes. The other John Hughes. So here's the deal. Greg Berlanti, Michael Green, and I, we wrote 5 drafts of the movie. You can actually find the first draft online. A simple Google search will surface it for you immediately.
Cool.
And obviously that was a first draft, but the truth is if you read it, you'll see how different it was once Michael Goldenberg rewrote our script, and Martin Campbell directed it. The bottom line is that just wasn't the movie we set out. The movie that you saw wasn't the movie we set out to make. If you were to ask me, when I read the draft, the shooting draft, I felt like I said to Greg, I'm like, well, Martin's really doubling down on himself, because I think that this could still work. I think this could still be a good movie, but like all the work we were doing on the page in terms of the heart and the humor and the emotion kind of got taken out. So now it's going to, Martin's going to have to bring that out in the performances. And I leave it to other people, to decide whether or not he was successful. I think reasonable minds will differ on that. I know a lot of people. I bump into a lot of people who actually really dig Green Lantern. Who really like the movie. So I'm not here to sort of blast the movie. I will say that in all of our pre-production conversations, the thing that we are always saying is, if we can do it in camera, let's do it in camera. Let's not, obviously, if you're going to do a big space show, there are going to be visual effects. I love visual effects,
sure.
But it can't, we cannot rely solely on, CG. So like, I want to, you want to see like practical creature effects. Sure, there are going to be creatures that are CG, but like you want you want to ground this in the real as much as possible. It's just a production philosophy that I think is different from the production philosophy that they had on the movie.
I appreciate that, and in fact, I can think of things. Wasn't Adam Abinsur's corpse? Wasn't that a?
No, that was practical.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was.
Oh, yeah, that was practical.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was. In fact, that was actually one of the first things from the movie I actually saw when I went to visit the set, the filming in New Orleans. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, he's dead. But yeah, it's like, I think, I'm a very big believer that practical elements ground the CG, and the CG helps the practical elements. It really, you do it right, and it's a virtuous cycle, and it starts to feel like, you want to blur the line, if not eliminate entirely, between what's CG and what's real. So that is just a philosophy that we have, strictly adhered to. And every person who comes on, shares that philosophy. Like that's a litmus test for us.
And I imagine all of you have learned on both sides of the street, DC and Marvel, as you've produced these television shows and films, that those kind of lessons of don't lean so hard on CG, and that there really does need to be a very big human element, and that's great to hear, and I think that's a good concern to have that balance, obviously. So
yeah, it's I think in television, like in broadcast television where your budget is smaller, there are times where you have to rely on CG because you basically don't have the money to do it two ways. You don't have the money to do the practical and the CG. You've got to pick one. You got to pick a lane. And that can be tricky.
Understood. And I don't know if this is a local or an international question from Jose, our Ganraz.
Oh.
He wants to know the favorite show that you were part of.
Oh gosh, that's like trying to pick among my kids. I think, speaking of my kids, my daughter asked me that, like, what's your favorite show that you worked on? And I got to say, like, Eli Stone has a real special place in my heart for a variety of different reasons. But the truth of them, if I'm being truly honest, each show has been good in its own way. And I'm proud of and enjoy the experience for different reasons. So, but Eli, like I said, it was special in so many different ways, and I think also special to a lot of people. So that is a good reason to make it my favorite.
I understand that, absolutely. I go back to that limo ride, and Art Baltazar was with us, and you stayed on the right side of non-disclosure, but you couldn't help yourself and tell us, man, wait till you see. You guys had already done a couple of the crossovers.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be the big Crisis crossover. That well done, man. I don't think we have had a chance to talk on the air since it came out back in 19 or whatever. Was it 19 or 20?
It was both, actually. We had the first 3 episodes were in 19. The last 2 episodes were in 20. And it feels like a lifetime ago already.
Sure.
Because we've all been through so much. But thanks, man. Crisis was it was a labor of love. It was tough to pull off. Really, really, really tough. I ended up, I think, burning a lot of bridges to make it happen. But I went into it. I actually was very honest with everyone. I said, look, if the choice is screwing up this iconic story or screwing up, my relationship with, the studio, I'm sorry. It's been nice working with you. It's been a fun 8 years, but I'm not gonna do this the wrong way.
Well, and thank God, man, because it really was this epic story that you guys pulled off. And I mean, of course, the little nods here and there, getting Robert Wool to come back.
That was so great. And Robert could not have been more delightful, by the way. Like total pro, like what a gentleman, what a great guy. I'm kind of amazed, like looking back on it. And I know I've certainly read the criticisms like that we focus too much on the cameos and the Easter eggs and everything. I hear that. I get that. But like each one of them was a fight. Each one of them was either a budget problem, a creative problem, a scheduling problem. And every single one of them were worth it. Every single one.
And truly the Lucifer one, mentioning Joe.
That was a great surprise. That one probably had the most twists and turns because Lucifer was on Netflix at the time, and it took a lot of there was a lot of pretty much with almost all the cameos. There were moments where this is definitely not going to happen, and then there were moments where it's like you're on this emotional roller coaster. But I have to say, of all the cameos, that one just put the biggest smile on my face. It just maybe because that was one of the hardest ones to sort of pull off, because that had all the things I described as being issues. It had all of them all at once. Plus corporate. Corporate differences between Netflix and CW. And I'll tell you something funny about that, actually. So we had gotten from Joe and his team an establishing shot from Lucifer. And in it, it's basically like a helicopter shot of Los Angeles. And there's a billboard for, I forget for what it was, but we had to cover up the billboard with something. And for fun, I thought, it'd be billboard.
Oh God!
Because that would just be that'd be a fun nod and everything. And someone nixed it. Some lawyer nixed it, and I had sent just the mock-up to Tom Spezialy and Damon Lindelof. Just like, well, we tried, guys. And Damon wrote back immediately. He's like, "This is the most awesome thing ever. Who do I have to call?" And he called up Mark Pedowitz, and Mark, basically got the lawyers to stand down. So
wow,
it was
freeze frame, and it's there in the
yes, it's great. It was just a nice little nod, both to DC and to HBO, and and to the work Damon and Tom had done. There were nice little things. But that sequence at the very end when I call it the go around the horn sequence, where we sort of revisit every single one of those images and actors had to be cleared, and for the actors, it meant I had to negotiate deals for every single one of them. It was so just time consuming. I had this big sort of spreadsheet, checking off, boxes and, just trying to okay, we gotta get that actor to sign off. Otherwise we can't use the shot. It nearly killed me.
Are you able to reveal any celebrities that scheduling just kind of screwed things up and it's sorry, just can't do it?
It's funny. I've tried very hard. I've tried very, very hard to not mention people who didn't do it for any number of reasons. I'm oh my God, I feel horrible. I'm blanking on his name, from Krypton.
The kid who played Superman's grandfather.
Yes. Why can't I
remember his name either?
I'm horrible. I apologize if you're watching this.
He's great.
But he wanted to do it, and we actually had written in a moment in
Wow.
Iowa 1, and that was a pure straight up could not make it work scheduling wise, like left or right. And you know, it's really funny. It's only afterwards like that you realize certain things. And the thought I had far too late was it was a hologram. Could I have shot him on whatever set he was? I think he was doing a movie. Like, could I have shot him on a movie set against a green screen? Like, and there's all sorts of union rules about that, and it's really, really hard. Like, we tried to like shoot the Titans on their set, and it was difficult because you're technically shooting for a completely different production. So, actually, now in hindsight, my green screen idea probably wouldn't have worked. But it's like that's the kind of stuff that would keep me up at night. Like, can I do it this way? Can I do it this way? Can I do it this way?
Cameron Cuff, by the way, is
Cameron Cuff. Sorry, Cameron.
No, we got it in. We got it under the wire.
Thanks, Cameron.
Absolutely. And if I may, you know, it's crazy. So I did Terrificon last weekend, and we had George Newbern and Maria, who played Hawk Girl.
Yeah.
And I'm going through the series, and I cannot find, almost a similar problem as yours, I could not find a suitable amount of scenes for Superman and Hawkgirl to do a table read together. So I emailed Mark Wade because he's a Superman expert.
Of course.
And I'm like, Mark, is there an issue that I'm not thinking of that Superman and Hawkgirl shared a story? Literally less than an hour. He's like,
can I play? John Byrne's Action Comics.
Fair guess.
Okay.
Earlier than that. Pre-crisis, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
A story that was drawn and plotted by Jim Starlin, which is
pretty
awesome. Literally from 40 years ago. September of 81 was the publishing date. It was an issue of DC Comics Presents. It was great. But I'm kind of kicking myself now because in the story, Hawkgirl discovers a tomb that has Kryptonese on it as opposed to whatever kind of hieroglyphics you would think of. Calls Superman. He's reading the Kryptonese and he's like, oh my God, this was left by my great grandfather. And I should have made it Sag-El. I should have made it Cameron's character, but I used the name from the comic.
Right.
And so now I'm just like, I did not even think. And I'm like, but I threw in, much like you, I threw in a bunch of Easter eggs where it's like, because he essentially opened like a Stargate wormhole between Krypton and Earth, and that's how he made it Earth. So I threw in added dialogue for George to say where it's like, my father Jor-El must have studied his science to do this. And much like Jor-El, the Science Council rejected his experiments and theories. And also they were having seismic quakes on Krypton during his time, and he foresaw the pending doom of my planet, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, all right, that's good. They're going to love this shit.
I love that. I love that. That to me is, you know, that's all, you know, that's comic books, man. Like that's
man.
You know, that's what makes comic books. I don't think it's the capes and the tights, it's the worlds, you know?
So yeah, that's coming up on Word Balloon in the
that's cool. Ahead. I'm looking forward to that.
I was so pleased that, you know, it really literally like Saturday night bleary-eyed. I'm like adapting this script to for them to read the next day. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we also had over the fall for Baltimore being online last year, I had Susan Eisenberg, Wonder Woman, and George recreate scenes from Kingdom Come.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I had Mark play the narrator.
He must have liked that. He's got a good narrator voice. That's a good choice.
Former radio guy. I had no idea. He's like, you know, I used to be in broadcasting too. And I'm like, I did not know that. That's awesome.
But that's a very good Mark Wade.
I can't help it, man. You know, eventually I'll be doing a Marc Guggenheim. You know,
God.
I'll be studying these tapes carefully. Absolutely. Yeah. Jose, by the way, from Argentina, and he wants to know if you have any plans on working on video games in the future.
That's a great question. You know, I'll be honest. I would love to. You know, they're very, very time consuming. And they take a lot of time to do. But I've had some great experiences writing video games, and I'd love to. I mean, I would really love to do a Star Wars video game. You know,
sure.
Call me. That'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, maybe one of these days. I was working on a movie in quarantine that was an interactive sort of branching narrative, kind of script. And it was a lot of fun. And it was very much reminded me of my days of writing video games. It was, writing it was kind of like part computer programming and part, screenwriting. And I like exercising different parts of my brain.
What were some of those video games you worked on back in the day?
I worked on Call of Duty 3, the X-Men Origins Wolverine game, based on the movie.
Sure.
I worked on a game called Singularity, which it was kind of like a time travel game. It was first-person time travel game, but it had a really great twist that we somehow convinced Activision to go with. I still, to this day, can't believe they let us do it, but it works out terrific. It's a lot of fun.
That's cool. One of the recent storytelling platforms, and I'm so glad it's back because I'm a sucker for old time radio, but I really love the modern audio dramas that everyone has been making. And in fact, Ben Percy and I were talking about his Marvel ones.
Yeah.
And again, because you're playing with bigger, building blocks and stuff like that in film and television and the like. But would an audio drama ever appeal to you?
I've actually been talking to DC about one. So
that's great.
I would. Like I said, I love I love working in different mediums. I like the freedoms they give you and the constrictions and playing around with the form. That's just fun for me. So I don't know if anything will come of it, but I hope so, because it would be a lot of fun. We've come up with something really cool, I think. So fingers crossed.
That's excellent, man. Brad has another question, and I was going to get to this eventually. Do you have time to watch TV? If so, what do you enjoy watching? If not, any favorite shows growing up?
Great question. I do have time to watch TV. I have this weird rule, which I gotta I gotta free myself up from. I'm like, I only watch TV at night when I'm about to go to bed.
Okay.
Which is terrible because there's so much television out there. And that limiting my screen time really does limit how much TV I can watch. I love Mare of Easttown. Really enjoyed that. I love the Marvel shows. I've really been enjoying The Mandalorian. Lately I've been watching on Disney Plus Behind the Attraction.
Yes.
I guess it's a TV show, but it's probably not the kind of TV show Brad was referring to. But just absolutely, absolutely love it. And in terms of shows I love growing up, the two ones that are like the brightest stars in my personal pantheon are LA Law and Wise Guy.
Yep.
From LA Law premiered in '86 and Wise Guy premiered in '87. So very much a particular time,
I know your love of Wise Guy to the point where you even did a Comic-Con.
Oh yes, that's right. That's right. And I throw Wise Guy references into everything I write. It's my little nervous tick.
Well, and that's hilarious. Brad is one of us as well.
Yes.
Wise Guy. So there you go, man. So
love that.
Favorite story arc of Wise Guy?
Oh, it's got to be the Steelgrave arc. No one gets out of here alive. It's funny. I just rewatched the DC arc from season 3, not the DC comic arc, folks, the Washington DC arc. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed that. Like, it was just outside the box for that show, but also so right for the show. And Norman Lloyd, is absolutely brilliant in it.
Incredible in it. Norman Lloyd is so fantastic in it.
So great in it. So it's funny. I've been thinking, like, it would be fun. And I don't know if I could convince David Burke to do this, but I would love to do a Wise Guy Weekly podcast. Where, kind of like with West Wing Weekly, you go through each episode, once a week and just, sort of talk about it.
I love that show. Absolutely, man. Yeah. Well, and also, I'll confess, because I don't think they've put it out on physical media or streaming, but the Dead Dog Records arc.
Yes.
That's the white whale of the Wise Guy that, due to, I guess, music clearance,
it is. That is exactly the problem. Yeah, it is such a bummer. I mean, I have all of the episodes on videotape, and actually one of the first things I did in quarantine, like we all start quarantine. Some people were like baking bread and everything. One of the first things I did in quarantine was I took all my videotapes and I digitized them.
That's great.
I'll can I legally say I'll hook you up? I'll theoretically hook you up. But I love the Dead Dog record arc. That's I love that show. Nothing but fond memories of watching it, and love rewatching it. I got to be careful, otherwise I'd never watch anything new.
I understand, man, and I'm pouring through old stuff as well. In fact, later tonight, Kinescope, my new podcast with Gabe Hardman, we're doing our 5th episode. We're going to be talking about 2 live TV shows that James Dean did. He only made like 4 movies, but he made at least a dozen live TV shows.
Oh, I had no idea. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
That's very, very cool. That's a great title for a podcast.
Absolutely. No, do I have my? I should show you my logo for Ken. Actually, Gabe developed the logo for Kinescope. Where the hell is it? If I don't see it, then I'm gonna not bother. I don't see it. All right, never mind. But it's great. It's a test pattern, and the word balloon logo's in there and stuff. We were laughing our asses off. But yeah, no, we're having a lot of fun with that. Did you ever get a chance to meet either Cannell or Luke? Wasn't it Frank Lupo? Was the
Yeah, it was Frank Lupo. I did get a chance to meet with Cannell. He could not have been more lovely. I forget, there was another producer who had a relationship with Cannell, and we were talking about a reboot of Wise Guy.
Was it John Julian?
No, it wasn't John.
Okay.
It wasn't John. I'm trying to remember. I feel horrible that I can't remember this name. I was so fortunate. Stephen is, he's one of my personal idols. And to meet him was a thrill. He could not have been nicer, and obviously an incredibly smart guy. Since that panel we did at Comic-Con, David has become a close friend, and is just the salt of the earth, and also a very smart guy.
That's cool.
Yeah. So he's been very patient about answering all my inane Wise Guy questions.
Is that David Burke or
David Burke? Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. God, and I mean, it's funny, in my circle of comic book friends that are also involved in TV and film, everybody wants to remake Columbo, but I think Wise Guy is easier because just the DNA of Peter Falk is so entrenched in Columbo. In fact, we're going to explore on Kinescope. There's UCLA managed to uncover an original television version of the original play.
Oh, wow.
That became Diagnosis Murder in the TV movie 2 years before the series with Gene Barry and Falk and everybody. And I can't even remember the actor's name that plays Columbo, but he is so invisible because it doesn't have Peter Falk's personality. And listen, Ken Wall was amazing.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I'll be honest, I wouldn't want to do, and I wouldn't want to see a Wise Guy remake or reboot, or whatever you want to call it, with a Vinnie Terranova or Frank McPike. There's no topping Ken Wall and Jonathan Banks.
Absolutely.
And so I would rather see something that takes place, in modern day with new characters, or something set in the 80s, but with a different, agent and a different handler.
Okay. Yeah, and that makes sense. And again, you've still got the right framework. Well, they did it with Donnie Brasco, obviously.
Yeah. But, and you got to have the Mike Post theme, as far as I'm concerned.
No question. Absolutely. My God. Brad says that Wise Guy's streaming on a few of the Roku channels.
Oh, awesome. And whoa.
So that's cool.
Hey, thanks for that. Good to know.
And all those, Wise Guy's another one of those shows where, I mean, God, Kevin Spacey, that was like one of his first breakthrough roles.
I know.
John Severance, of course, and Annette Bening.
Annette Bening, Stanley Tucci,
yes.
You know, I mean, Jerry Lewis, Ron Silver. I mean, it's great. Anthony Dennison. I mean,
I love that story.
I mean, it's just, it's and you know, my other, you know, sort of kissing cousin favorite to it is a show that David and Stephen Kronish, who was also one of the senior writer producers of Wise Guy. They did a show called Unsub that ran for 8 episodes on NBC, and it's terrific. It's basically like CSI. It's CSI before there was CSI. It's Criminal Minds before Criminal Minds. The show was far ahead of its time, but my favorite thing is there's an episode where the serial killer is, you know, the daughter of this cop, and you go to her home, and there's all these framed commendations and certificates, and one of them is a membership certificate in the Pilgrims of Promise, which is the white supremacist organization from the first arc in season 2.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, Unsub and Wise Guy, they take place in the same universe. That's amazing.
That's fantastic. Knox Pooley.
Knox Pooley.
By Watergate lawyer
Fred Thompson. Who I worked with on Law and Order.
Oh, wow.
So I got a chance to debate the Patriot Act with him. It was a lot of fun.
So great in Hunt for Red October as well. Fred Thompson, man. Such a great
Hunt for October, In the Line of Fire, you know, Die Hard 2. I mean, the list goes on and on. What a titan.
And Unsub, that's one of Jay Ferber's favorite Lost TV shows. So,
I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
Jay and I, we were always, you know, comparing notes about that kind of stuff. I absolutely love that show.
No, man. And again, now I'm gonna have to look on YouTube and see if there's any Unsub episodes.
That's available on DVD.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's available on DVD.
That was like that show that they canceled quickly on ABC, where Dennis Haysbert was the commander of a nuclear sub, and his superiors were saying, hey, we're going to war, you're gonna have to fire your missiles, and he's like, this isn't happening conventionally. It was like the last ship. There we go.
Yep.
And it was so good. And
yes, it was great. Actually, there were 2 writers on Arrow, or 1 writer on Arrow who worked on that show.
Oh, no kidding, man. God, I love that. And I love that show. And even thankfully, unlike the American Life on Mars, that I think had a clunky ending.
Oh, yes.
I mean, they did the best they could for having 9 or 10 episodes, however long that series was allowed to go. But I was like, oh, okay, well, at least you got to kind of finish your story, and that's cool.
I tell you, anytime you can finish your story, it's really a blessing. You know, it's you know, it really sucks when you don't get a chance to do that.
You know, as a final question about TV stuff, Mark, where do you think, and this has been my recurring question with a lot of TV and film people, where is the mid-sized budget film? Like, I know you can do it on the streamers, but and obviously I imagine they're going to change the rules, but it really does seem, from a storytelling standpoint, it's like, well, why would you do that when you can make even a 4-part television show with a bigger canvas to give your story room to breathe and not be confined to a 2-hour or 2.5-hour movie, or even a 90-minute movie?
That's a great question. I will say I'm very bullish on the mid-budget movie. And the answer to your question is, well, you know, why not do a 4-hour miniseries and have more room to breathe? I think personally, it really depends upon the story. There are some stories that, you know, they benefit from the compression of 2 hours. You know, whereas other stories really do need to breathe. You know, Queen's Gambit was originally developed as a feature, and you know, I think it works much better as a miniseries. So I think it really depends upon what the nature of the story is. I'm very much a big believer in sort of the right tool for the right job, and you know, certain stories should only be told, you know, in a long form, and certain stories should only be told in a short form. And I think the audience can tell. Like, the audience can tell if something's been taffied out, or if something's been too compressed. But I'm glad that the streamers have come along to provide an outlet for the mid-budget movies, because, before the streamers, those movies were gone. It was all just, either small indie films or major blockbuster tentpoles. And I personally, I love the 2-hour mid-range, $50 million movie. Like that's what I grew up on.
Sure.
So hopefully, all these streamers and all these different ways of telling story, will lead to not just more 2-hour mid-budget movies or more 4 episodes miniseries, but like maybe it's 3 hours, maybe it's like Sherlock, where each episode is an hour and a half. Like it, I like the idea of the medium, expanding or contracting, to fit the format. Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. Wow, that's annoying.
What are you playing? What song was it?
That sounded like a Billy Joel song. What was it?
Oh, I couldn't hear it. That's excellent. So yeah, wasn't that? It might have been, obviously frustrating for you, but we couldn't hear it.
Yeah, that's very, very strange. So apologies for that. I assume when you make a podcast out of this, you're gonna, make me sound better and edit that out and all that fun stuff.
I'll put a Barry White filter on your voice. So
okay, thank you. That'd be great.
Rich and deep. So that'll be all right. But no, this is, I honestly, man, as someone who comes from, the radio side of broadcasting, I love the, looseness of these kinds of conversations, and just let our asses hang out. Whatever happens, happens. If a cat walks across the screen, I leave it in. I don't care. All that stuff is great, because this is us just talking and hanging out, man.
I like it. I should be drinking.
You could have been, absolutely.
Yeah. Next time, for sure.
No problem. All right. Once again, we want to remind people of Last Flight Out, the Dark Horse series that is starting in a few weeks. And forgive me, give us the date again.
Yes, September 8th. And FOC is August 16. And in issue 2, there's an FBI dossier written by Frank McPike, for you Wise Guy fans out there.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I knew Frank would survive.
Yes,
that's great to hear. I want to see. There we go. Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm showing the cover there, and I'll pan down. But again, look at this stuff, man. That's just beautiful.
Thanks.
Good stuff. So, God, I hope Ben and his little daughter are going to reunite. It'll take us 6 issues to find out, but the action starts next month, and that's great, man. And also all the TV and film stuff that you got coming. I'm very excited for you, and thrilled that we're talking. And hey, whenever anything is new and you have time, because I know how busy you get, but when you have time to talk, you're always welcome back.
Oh, thanks. Well, you're going to regret saying that, but you now said it. So
no, not truly, man. Honestly, as I said earlier, the fact that guys like yourself, Joe Henderson, Bendis, other people that are at Brubaker and Rucka that are willing to, talk about the experiences of storytelling in the various platforms, I think gives a lot of aspiring writers and creators, inspiration and good knowledge. And also it's one of the things that fascinates me about this ever-changing entertainment world. And that's why I'm glad I do Word Balloon. So as always,
I'm glad you do it, man. I really am a big fan of the podcast. So thanks for doing it. And thanks for having me on. I really love it.
As always, man, my pleasure. So everybody, we're going to reconvene in about 3 hours for our look at James Dean's television work. One of the shows is called Tales of Tomorrow. That was a pre-Twilight Zone live sci-fi show.
Oh, that's awesome.
And even had Paul Newman was even a bit in one of those episodes. But we're going to focus on the James Dean one. And then an episode of a TV show called Climax that Sidney Lumet worked on. Or excuse me, Danger, not Climax. Climax, we did the first James Bond, the Casino Royale. That was 8 years before Dr. No.
Awesome.
It was pretty fun. And poor Barry Nelson from The Shining is Jimmy Bond, an American agent.
Right. That's right.
So miscast, but you get Peter Lorre as Le Chiffre.
That's right.
It's like, all right, that totally works. Peter Lorre absolutely should have been a Bond villain, so that works.
Yep.
So,
No Mads Mikkelsen though.
no, unfortunately.
He did a great job.
Very true. And in fact, at Terrificon at the Mohegan Sun Casino, they had a whole bunch of slot machines that were 007 featured. And we were watching those great scenes of poker with Mikkelsen as the chief. It was pretty cool.
So awesome.
Hilarious.
So awesome. Great movie. That was a great Martin Campbell movie.
100%. Totally.
I'm like, that's a great Martin. Come on.
Absolutely. Well, and also, didn't he do Layer Cake?
I think he did. He also did Mask of Zorro, which, it's one of the all-time great, superhero movies as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, absolutely. Lord Anthony Hopkins. It's like Dark Knight as Zorro. Absolutely,
it's
man.
Brilliant. That movie is brilliant. If anyone who hasn't seen it, check it out. It's fantastic.
Oh, God. When the Lone Ranger movie came out with Armie Hammer, I remember being on a Comic-Con panel with a few other comic podcasters, and someone's like, why do you think the Lone Ranger failed? And one of them, in a very arrogant way, is like, well, my God, the franchise goes back to the 30s. I mean, it's just too old to relate to today's audience. I'm like, yeah, guess what? Zorro is 15 years older, and nobody had a problem with Zorro. I'm like, no.
You make a good movie, and there's a great Lone Ranger movie to be made. I hope
100%.
someone, There's a really good
Green Hornet for that matter too. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm with you. See, this is why I like talking to you, Mark. I absolutely agree with you. Everybody, thanks for watching. Excellent questions. Well done. And join us next time. Until then, stay safe.